Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about graphing quadratics in vertex form. In other words, this is where we're going to find our A, H, and K and use that to shift it around. So we're going to kind of reminding ourselves on how we graphed out our absolute value functions and stuff like that, and it's going to be shifting around our graph. Okay, so let's go down here and let's talk about our main form that we're using, and that's this. Y equals A times X minus H squared plus K. Now, if you remember, H controls my left and my right, but it is a liar. It's opposite. Because of this minus sign right here, it goes opposite. So if it's a minus 3, we're going to go to the right 3. If it's a plus 3, we're going to go to the left 3. My K controls my up and down, and it tells me the truth. My A, if A is positive, we're opening up. If A is negative, we're opening down. And if A is a bigger number, we're going to have a vertical stretch. If it's a fraction, we're going to have a vertical compress, like this. And I'll show you how to count up and over to get those correct answers, okay? So this right here is a lot of good information. Look back at your notes on Canvas. You need some extra help. But let's go ahead and let's go to our next page, and let's try to graph one for ourselves. So here I have number 1. We have y equals negative 4 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. So let's jot down some information here first, okay? So first, my A controls if we're going up or down. What I mean by that is it controls if I'm opening up or opening down. If it's positive, we're going to open up. If it's negative, we're going to open down. The second thing that it controls is our vertical stretch or compress. So like if it's a whole number, it's going to stretch our graph like this. If it's not, it's going to compress our graph down to be flatter. Okay, now my H controls the left and the right. Okay, but we have to remember that H is a liar. My actual H is not the H inside the equation. We have to do the opposite of it. Then my K. My K is going to control my shift up and down, so it's different than my A. A controls like the direction. But this one's going to show if I shift up or down, and then my vertex is going to be whatever H and K is. So my vertex is whatever H and K is. So let's take a look here at number 1. So number 1, my A value is negative 4. My H is actually going to be positive 2. Okay? Because it's opposite of what's inside the equation. It's a liar. So my H is going to be positive 2. My K is going to be 4. My parent function is always going to be the same. We're talking about quadratic equations here. And quadratic equations are going to have the parent function of y equals x squared. Because we're going to have a squared x if it's going to be a quadratic. My opening direction on this one. Okay, since A is negative, my opening direction is going to be down. We're going to open like that. Okay, that's what it means. A controls if it's opening down or opening up. Okay, my transformations. So we already know that we're opening down, so from the very beginning we can write out we're going to have a vertical reflection. So we have a vertical reflection. We're going to have a vertical stretch because of that 4 is an A, so it's not only opening down, it's going to narrow up and go very quickly down. So we're going to have a vertical stretch by 4. And we're going to go 2 to the right, so I'm going to go to the right 2, and lastly we're going to go up 4. Okay, so say look here, if we go to the right 2 and up 4, that would take my vertex. We go to the right 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where my vertex is going to be. So my vertex is going to be wherever H and K is. It's going to be at 2, 4. My axis of symmetry. is also going to be right here along this line, right? We have that invisible axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry is going to be x equals whatever h is. And h is 2, so this one's just going to be x equals 2. Okay? All right, so now we can kind of get an idea here and draw my graph out. Here's how I like to draw my graph. Okay, we know our opening direction, we know our vertex, so we know it's going to like come down this way. But we also know that I have a vertical stretch by 4. Now you can kind of think about that as like my slope going from my vertex. So that means that we're going to go down 4, out 1 this way, down 4, out 1 this way. And so it shows you pretty accurately where my graph is going to be. So it's going to go like this, down this way, like this, down this way. Okay? So we're going to get it going down both directions. My domain. Our domain is going to always be all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay? My range, however, remember your range is your up and down. We're going to go on this particular graph, we're going to go all the way down, but we're going to hit a high point up here. So we're going to go all the way down, but the highest point that we can go is 4. So it's going to be y is less than or equal to 4, or negative infinity to 4 with the brackets on it because it's also equal to. All right, let's take a look at our y-intercept and our x-intercept. Now I know my y-intercept is going to be like down here. And so it's going to be some negative number. And so to find our y-intercept, what you can do is you can plug this into your calculator. Okay? Plug it into your calculator or the calculator on your Chromebook or whatever. And you can find out wherever x is 0, that's where my y-intercept is. Wherever y is 0, that's where my x-intercepts are. Okay? So it kind of goes both directions like that. We'll come back to that in a second. But first, our max or min value. Your max or min, well, this one's going to be a maximum, right? We have a maximum at 4. So we're going to have a maximum of 4. But now let's talk more in detail about how we find our y-intercept and how we find our x-intercept. Find our y-intercept, we make x 0, right? So I'm going to plug in 0 over here. So we're going to go y equals negative 4 times 0 minus 2, right? We're plugging in 0 for x, squared plus 4. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 plus 4 is negative 12. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, negative 12. Okay? That's just wherever x is 0. You can also, just like I said, find where x is 0 on your graph, use your table. You have a lot of options there available to you. Now let's talk about how to find our x-intercept. So our x-intercept is going to be where y is 0. So this one's a little bit more complicated, but all we're going to do is I'm going to plug it in, and we're just going to have, let's see here, we're going to have 0 equals negative 4 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. And this is just like what we've been doing, right? We just solved. We're going to minus 4 to both sides. We're going to get negative 4 equals negative 4 times x minus 2 squared. Divide both sides by negative 4. And so we're going to get x minus 2 squared equals 1. Then we can square root both sides. And that's going to give me, I'm going to rewrite it over here, it's going to give me x minus 2 equals plus or minus 1. So we could get x minus 2 equals positive 1. We could get x minus 2 equals negative 1. So that's going to either be 3, 0, or it's going to be 1, 0. So those are my x-intercepts. We could have 3, 0, or we could have 1, 0. All right, so that's all you have to do to get those x-intercepts, y-intercepts. But remember, just plug it into your calculator, right? Look at the table. You can find where y is 0. That's your x-intercepts. Wherever x is 0, that's your y-intercept. All right? Okay, let's take a look at this problem really quickly. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington has two towers that each rise 307 feet above the roadway and are connected by suspension cables as shown. Each cable can be modeled by this function, okay, where x and y are measured in feet. What is the distance d between the two towers? All right, so we have these two towers here, and we're looking for the distance between the two. Now, this whole 307 feet, that's kind of like it's kind of there to throw you off. What we're really looking for is the distance between the two, right? Well, we can find the distance halfway by finding the axis of symmetry, right? And so my axis of symmetry is going to be x equals whatever h is. In this case, h is 1400. So x is going to equal 1,400 feet. So that means from here to here is 1,400 feet. So it stands to reason that that same distance here is also 1,400 feet. So how long is the distance between the two? Oh, that's simple. It's just going to be 2,800 feet from this end to this end. Okay? So there's our distance d. d equals 2,800 feet. All right? So it helps to be able to find like the axis symmetry, the vertex. That kind of gives us a starting point of where we're at. Okay? All right, let's turn the page. We've got two more to do real quick. So let's see here. Y equals, parentheses, x plus 2 squared minus 3. Okay, so once again, we're going to be thinking about my A, my H, and my K. So you'll notice I'm going to go ahead and write those out over here, all right, because we're just kind of diving in on this one. But here we go. My A is going to be 1. My H is going to be -2, and my K is going to be -3. So notice that your H is the opposite of what's on the inside, right? It's a line. So then that means my vertex is going to be at -2, -3. And we can plot that point over here. We can go -2, down 3, there's my vertex. And I know that my opening direction is going to be up, right? So we're going to be going upwards because my A is positive. Then, if that's my vertex, then my axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals h, and h is -2. So there's your axis of symmetry. And we know it's opening up. And since my A is just 1, for my first little bit, we're just going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So it's going to look like this. We're going to go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the left 1. So it's going to go out like this and out like this. Okay? All right. Now let's take a look at our y-intercept. So my y-intercept, we just need to plug in 0 for x, right? So to find my y-intercept, we're going to go y equals 0 plus 2 squared minus 3. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, 1. Now for my x-intercept. Now remember, for our x-intercept, what we do is we're going to plug in 0 for y and solve. So this one's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So I'm going to go 0 equals x plus 2 squared minus 3. And then once again, we just solve using the square root method, right? So we're just going to add 3 to both sides. Then to solve, we're going to square root this side, square root this side, and I'm going to get x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. Minus 2 to both sides here, and we're going to get x equals -2 plus or minus the square root of 3. So that's our answer. But just wondering, how can that be our answer? Well, we just kind of leave it like that, or we can actually find the decimal values of that, right? So we can plug in the square root of 3 into my calculator and go square root of 3, which is going to be like about 1.73. Of course, it's an irrational number, so the decimals go on for forever, but you get my point. So this, you can think about this as being x equals plus, x equals -2 plus or minus 1.73. So if it's -2 plus 1.73, that would be, let's see here, -2 plus 1.73, that would be -0.27, or if it's minus -2 minus 1.73, sorry, -2 minus 1.73, that would be -3.73. So here are my two answers here. My x-intercepts are going to be at -0.27, comma 0, and it's going to be at -3.73, comma 0. My domain is going to be all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity. My range, though, once again, we have to think about it. My range, my lowest point is -3, so it's going to be y is greater than or equal to -3. We have a minimum on this one, and it's going to be brackets -3 to infinity. Okay? And of course, that one's a minimum. All right, here's our last one, and this one has a fraction in it, so we're going to go pretty quick, okay? We're actually just going to start with the vertex, so remember this is my h and k, except this should be negative, right? So my h is -2, my k is -5, so my vertex is going to be at -2, -5. So we're going to go to the left 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. There's my vertex. My axis of symmetry is going to be the same. And we know that we are opening down, right? We're going to open down on this one. Now, I also know something else. I also know that even though we're opening down, it's going to be at 1/4. So we're going to have a vertical compress. So we're going to compress, and we're going to go out all the way, down 1, out 4, down 1, out 1, 2, 3, 4. And so it's going to go all the way out here like this, and all the way out here. So if you have a fraction, we still count out the same way, okay? And then this video is running long, so I'm not going to do the x and y intercepts on this one. You can do that on your calculator. If you have any questions about that, be sure to let me know. But just think about vertex, axis of symmetry, compression, stretch, all of that, and I'll be around to help you on your homework, okay? So hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in.